There's a movie, Fury, with Brad Pitt, yeah, and they're in the tank, and one of the guys says, "There's a verse in Isaiah, who shall I send?" And he says, "Send me." And that always stuck out to me prior to that movie even. It's simple. It's in two words: send me, send I, use me. I grew up in Florida, but before I lived in Florida, we lived in Arkansas. My dad's a pastor, and we moved around a lot. I was born in Kansas. My sister was born in Oklahoma. We lived in Indiana, and while they were there, my dad got an offer through the Bible College for a church in Florida, on Marco Island, Florida. I needed a pastor. And as a kid, you hear island, and you're like, wow, I'm thinking you got to swim to get there, you know. So we get down there and settled in, and everything was great. And when I was 14 and my brothers were 4, one of my brothers started getting sick often. It's kind of a blur, all of this, but we were having a revival at the church, and I remember my mom finally just snapped, and she took my brother in our only vehicle and left and went to the nearest major hospital with him. For a couple weeks, my sister and I and my other brother were passed around with elders in the church, other, families from the church, staying with them while my parents were at the hospital with my brother. And I remember one Wednesday night, we went to the church and someone was filling in for my dad, and I was sitting on the back row, and there was a lot of commotion by my dad's office. And I'll never forget that door open, and I saw my dad's face and the look in his eyes and just the pain and, loss. And I don't remember exactly when or how or how they did it, but they told us he had an inoperable brain tumor. So for the next 9 months, our family was in complete turmoil. The brain tumor swells inside your brainstem, and when it swells, your brainstem affects your whole body. So to keep that from being such an adverse effect, they try to swell your brainstem. So they give him these steroids, so his head swelled. He was going cross-eyed, so they put a patch on an eye, and he just looked terrible. I mean, he couldn't hardly talk, and basically they just, made him as comfortable as possible until finally he died in my parents' arms, in our house. Our family was never the same. Just rough. Rough to think about, rough to remember, and at the time, I mean, you just, you kind of just take yourself out of your own body and go somewhere else. You're not there. You're not living in that moment. Being 14 years old, and they had a lot going on, so I'm in the background doing my thing. And I have great parents, but I just felt like you're forgotten. And I was lost, and it was hard. It was, I go months without thinking about my brother, but obviously it was painful enough where I just block it out. I tried to cope any way I could. I just didn't want to feel it. Started doing drugs. And, I started with normal, smoking pot and drinking and stuff like that. And then as you get older and get into high school, and harder drugs start coming around, everything. And I had a lot of friends that were getting in trouble, going to jail. I had some friends OD. One night we had a guy over and a couple girls over, and something happened with one of the girls and her boyfriend, and she came back to the house at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday with a loaded gun and was at my window next to my front door screaming. I go into his room, wake him up. I go, "We gotta go. The cops are coming. You better flush everything, do everything." So I come out of the apartment and every cop in the state is pulling in there as fast as they can. So we end up getting pulled over. They handcuff us, take us back to my house. We're sitting in the living room. We both ended up getting in trouble, going to jail. I called my parents from one of the phones in there and they said, lose our number. Well, not only are we not helping you with an attorney or bail or anything, we don't want anything to do with you. And that, my parents have just dealt with this major loss. They're never getting over that. And I'm out here doing all this. They think they're gonna lose a second son. And that's when the judge, said, hey, it's your first time ever being arrested and yeah, you're in trouble, but we want to try to not throw the book at everybody their first time. I want you to try to get some help. And it was the best thing that's ever happened to me, was someone suggesting that I go to this faith farm. Saved my life. But when I got to Boynton Beach, which is in West Palm Beach, there was a peace that came over me when I walked in there, and I've never forgot it, and it never went away. There's just a vibe there, there's a peace, there's a spirit there that this is a good place. Not just this is where I need to be, but this is a good place for anybody that needs help. Anybody that's really wanting to change, this is where you need to be. I was in church my entire life, but never had a relationship. I was just going through the motions. Part of the process is stripping you down of all your earthly, physical desires and needs. And then once you're there about 6 months, there's a fifth level called discipleship. Discipleship training, they call it DTC. They only accept 12 guys at a time. I just remember seeing that and thinking, wow, I want that. I don't know why. I don't know they're set apart. They've got something special. They've achieved something. I was interested in it. I was like, what do they have? What do these guys got? And going through that place for 5-6 months and weathering all those storms to achieve that made you want to be there, made you want to get to that level. They do this class where they teach you to pray. And they say, by the end of this class in 6 weeks, you're going to be praying for 2 hours. And you think to yourself, I can't pray for 5 minutes before falling asleep every night. Like, how am I going to pray for 2 hours? And by the time you're done, you're praying for 2 hours and you still have stuff left over to pray about. I just remember talking to God and saying, God, I need you in my life. And this is the path I want to go on. This is the best I've ever felt. I can tell this is where I need to be. This is what I need in my life to keep centered, keep straight, and be the man I'm supposed to be a dad one day, be a husband one day, be the son my parents deserve. There was a moment there in that prayer where I just realized that that's, I'm starting my official relationship with God. And I ended up working there for 7 years. But it was an amazing experience, and coached softball teams there, built a ball field, and I was managing the loading dock and 20 trucks and a dispatch area. And then they decided to buy a tractor trailer, and they said, hey, would you like to get your CDL? I said, I've always wanted to drive a truck. So they sent me to truck driving school on the weekends. Been driving truck ever since. This is my wife, Kim.
Hi.
My wife went through the same program, and she stayed on as a extended, almost an employee there for 3 years, helping women out, and I stayed helping with the men. I helped probably 2,000 men go through the program. When I was coming to Coshocton, we didn't know anything. My dad said, well, I have a friend that's retired down here from Zanesville. Call him. He said, if you're going to live in Frazeysburg, go to Meadowview Church of Christ. He says, that's the sister church of our church. And he said, the guy there, his name's Sam. He's the best guy. You're going to love it. So we pulled into town on a Tuesday. I literally didn't even have my trailer unloaded with all my stuff to move into the house. I dropped the trailer and drove and found the church and went to the front door, knocked on the door. I said, hey, I'm new to town. I'm going to be going to church here. And that was 10, 11 years ago, and we've been going there ever since. About a year ago, year and a half ago, some of the leadership stepped to me and said, hey, do you have any desire to be in leadership at the church, to be a deacon? Deacon means service or set apart for service. To me, that really fit because prior to becoming a deacon, that's what I longed to do around the church, was do the work. It's service. It's service to others. Not just serving people in the church, serving man in general. And it fulfills me. I mean, it gives me a purpose. It gives my wife a purpose. It's just a great church family, church home.
I think the feeling I get from Meadowview is inclusion and like no judgment. We've gone through some stuff, growing pains, and we've had key people in our life that just like, despite what that situation looked like, loved us.
It's not been perfect along the way. I've fell before. I've had, times where I've said the wrong thing. I've treated people the wrong way, but I always go back. God's my center. That's what I need in my life. He's in charge of my life. He keeps my path straight. He guides me. He guides my family. It wasn't until I was at the bottom and looking up and looking for a hand did I finally say, I need this. I need help. Can you help me? There's going to be people in this that watch this video that either never been to church a day in their life or have been but haven't been in a long time. And someone in that group is dealing with depression, dealing with anxiety, might be thinking about suicide, might be thinking about harming themselves or feeling hopeless or lost. Why I'm doing this is to encourage people that God can fix that. He can solve that for them. He can give them the peace that they're longing for. If I could help one person beat what they got going on and overcome that and succeed and find peace that they need, this is all worth it. Thinking my life was over, multiple times over, to working my way up, to having a family, having good jobs, putting a roof over our head, getting back involved in the church, and getting all the way to where I'm an ordained deacon at the church is like coming full circle. I mean, it's a book in itself. I'm honored, and I appreciate the people that encourage me. And it's like having a 500-person family that really cares about you, and I don't want to let them down. They think highly of me. They love me. They encourage me. They care about my wife, my family, my daughter. They take an interest in my life. I'm most thankful for my wife and my daughter, my in-laws, my parents obviously, but my immediate family God's given me. To me, that's amazing that's, I was placed here for a reason. Let me be an example for you, Lord. Let me be the guy that you use, be the tip of the spear, send in first. To do what you need done.
Here I am.
Use me.
Yeah.
It's time to talk.